You brought up evolution. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Donald Hoffman, professor of cognitive science at University of California, Irvine, he has put forward the same theory that the subjective reality that we see is nothing but an evolutionary trait.
Of course.
In the realm of evolutionary game theory, if you construct the payoff matrix, then the most evolutionary stable strategy is for humans to develop a subjective reality that is best suited for survival.
Yes.
Because he argues that the objective reality, whatever it is far too complex, far too complicated for any organism to survive.
It's just not relevant.
It's just not relevant. And in order to actually have a chance of surviving, you have to create some form. You have to evolve a subjective reality that is best suited for survival. Yes. So I believe you are in agreement with him.
Well, I would argue that game theory aside, you can show from a data science perspective that, let's say, when you process big data, yes? One fundamental principle of big data processing is you want to reduce the data up front because the data is too big. You can't process all of it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, oh, big data, but no, the data is usually too big for you to do anything with it. So a key strategy is to reduce the data up front. But how do you know you are losing something important, right? And the answer is you filter by relevance, whatever is relevant to you. And maybe not, there's different filters for people, right? There's your individual filter, that's your subjective, as you grow up, developmental trajectory. Then there's the cultural filter, different cultures emphasize different things. And then there's also the evolutionary filter. So it's relevance filters all the way down. So basically, evolutionarily speaking, yes. Then socially, culturally, then your life trajectory, whatever is relevant to you. And then maybe what's relevant to you right now. Maybe you're hungry or you're hot or whatever, yes. So it's filters all the way down.
How do you determine what's relevant?
Well, relevant is usually goal relevant. In other words, you have a goal, and at least for most people, these goals can be traced to either values, like so what you value, money, justice, fairness, integrity. I mean, whatever it is that you value. And by the way, do not believe that this is as universal as you think. A lot of philosophical systems just declare, for instance, Universal Declaration of Human Rights or U.S. Declaration of Independence, that these are self-evident universal values. Research suggests they're not. It's much more subjective than that. But anyway, they're either subjective philosophical values, or they are ultimately evolutionary values. Like I said, if you don't eat, you die. If you don't reproduce, your genetic information will not be part of the next generation.
So we are in agreement that subjective reality is an evolutionary trait. Let's push this theory.
It has to be.
It has to be.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. It's not like you were the first person to ever live.
Yeah.
Or the first organism to ever live. As I said, we can compute this. There's a long chain going about 1 billion years, or 1,000 million, or a million millennia. Sorry, a million millennia.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Okay.
About 1 billion years.
But we're talking, since you're talking on a timeline of 1 million years, the first humans and the current humans, there might not be much of a difference in the subjective reality.
Say that again?
So let's take cavemen, and up to now, do you think there's a difference in the reality that we perceive? Or
yes.
There is.
So and the reason I'm saying that is because, well, that's a whole topic in itself. But briefly, all of the culture that we have experienced has happened in what's called the Holocene.
Yeah.
Since the end of the last ice age. So about 10, 12,000 years, depends how you count. And for a lot of people, for a long time, people were like, well, there's not enough time to have meaningful evolutionary change. I think from a modern perspective, we know that's not true. That number one, evolution goes in like fits and starts. Like it's not gradual. It's like there's like these breakthroughs where it's just like some equilibrium is punctured and you have a dramatic change. And what you can show is that since the end of the Holocene, there's been dramatic evolutionary pressures that have changed. And I'm not surprised by that. I mean, societies have grown from, Dunbar's number, about 100, 150 people, yes, for most of evolutionary history. And if we go with people or monkeys, right, primates, to much bigger societies since the advent of agriculture. So I'm not surprised that has created entirely new evolutionary, pressures.
We've established it has to be an evolutionary trait.
That we have.
I'm going to push this here even further. Let's see if you agree with it. So Mr. Hoffman also argues that subjective reality is not this narrow window into objective reality. Once again, whatever that might be.
Yes.
It's not this smaller piece of a bigger picture, but rather it's this completely detached, mutated form of reality that we have created for survival that studying it will not get us any closer to objective reality. It's just our form of construct. Do you agree or disagree with this?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I often say philosophy can only ask questions, can never answer any questions. Yeah. So philosophy aside, I do think there's a close link between subjective and objective reality. And let me tell you why. Everybody, all of us, have very often purely subjective experiences. Yes, let's say you wake up in the morning and you had these dreams. Yes.
Yeah.
How do you know that didn't happen? Yes, because for you it often seems very real. Yes, and the answer is the way you know is that everyone else doesn't share that. Yes. So I would argue that the reality we agree on is indistinguishable from a shared dream. Yes, but it is shared. So we all agree what happened and what didn't happen. Yes, but if only you experienced it, we probably think it was just your imagination or your dream or something like that. Yes. I'll give an example from moral philosophy. Most people don't reason philosophically what they should do or should not do. If you ask them what the right thing to do is, they will tell you, if they have a conscience, a little voice in their head will tell them that what they did is wrong and they should not do it again, or they should feel bad about it or something like that. Or maybe a little voice tells them what to do. Yes. If you talk to a psychopath who doesn't have a conscience, they will be like, what voice are you talking about? That sounds completely delusional. So I guess what I'm saying is, so what we believe objective reality is this shared subjective reality. And that has to be explained. So for instance, if we all agree, if you and I agree, there's a table here, there's Legos here, yes, there's a camera here, that would be hard to explain if there wasn't something out there, some reference point that we both perceive similarly, yes? So this commonality has to explain. And that hints to objective reality. If you were trapped or stranded on an island by yourself, I think you would have a hard time distinguishing what's real and what's not real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could just be your imagination, yes. And I think you actually see that. So in isolation, people start to hallucinate. And that's maybe why, because there's no touch point. Like I can ask you, hey, do you also see this table? Oh, it's probably there is. Whereas if I'm just unbound, if my brain is unbound with like my own subjective experiences, the boundary between what's just in my head and what's real is probably very blurry.
There's this network effect that's important with reality where you have to just share commonality.
Yes, that's the idea, yes.
Let's explore subjective reality first.
Yes.
And let's explore it even further. We started off talking about the thought experiment, about the tree falling in the forest.
Yes.
There's I don't know if you've heard of a third variation of it, where if a man says something in the forest and his wife is not there to hear him, is he still wrong?
Axiomatically, yes, I guess. But good point. Good point.
we can guess the answer. But back to subjective reality. I take your point. So who you are really shapes what you hear in the case of this tree. And it doesn't just differ from an elephant to a moth to a spider. As
it's in general. It's generally true, yes.
So even from one human to another, we just covered it as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned this because I think I see where this is going. So my life has been dominated in the last 10 years by studying exactly that. And not just as a thought experiment, but with real studies, empirically, yeah.